For her contribution in the year of 2000, she was awarded with the coveted Governor Medals by the Governor of Haryana. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Arjuna Surana. Ms. Arjuna Surana is a design educator, mentor, and social entrepreneur. She is a member of CII National Committee of Design India. She successfully carries forward a legacy of 22 years as the founder and director of Arch College of Design and Business. She is the executive board member of Cumulus 2022, US Department, and Rotary Foundation alumnus, Vital Voices led fellow, a Fortune and a GAP mentee, founded the Women's Mentor Forum in 2014, impacting 1,500 plus women entrepreneurs and professionals. We welcome you, ma'am. Ms. Sumeeti. Ms. Sumeeti is a co-founder and director of Pratham Software and has over 21 years of leadership in the IT industry. She set up a school for underprivileged in 2005 and has been recognized by President of India for the same. We welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Ajanta Sen, founder and director Jellow Lab and founder in Design India and director Solar Project. She is a PhD in developing planning from IIT Bombay. The project set many technologies and design milestones and has won over 100 awards to the date. She had coordinated and chaired several international events. We welcome you, ma'am. Ms. Yashika Khater. She is a scientist from MIT Harvard, USA, who has guided more than 6,000 plus people in crypto space, the only Indian woman chosen in top 50 crypto content creator in the world. Her presentation often makes her all age group interested and motivated to learn about Metaverse and NFTs. President of 2 national awards of 20,000 plus girls and 1,500 plus women in professionals. She has also created 2 Limca books records for organization. Wow. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We would now proceed with women's leadership in digital world.
Thank you, Lakshita, for such beautiful introductions of the panelists. Thank you, Lakshita, for such lovely introduction of our panelists today. At the outset, I think all of us should be thanking Government of Rajasthan to make this platform available to all of us and to express our views on the topic women's leadership in digital world. I personally feel that mere idea of connecting women leadership with digitization in itself is a empowering statement. And it further reinforces this idea. We have among us the eminent women leaders on the floor today. All have their own fields of expertise. Archna ji leads in the field of education, mentorship, and entrepreneurship. Then we have Mrs. Sumeeti Mittal from software industry and Mrs. Yashika Khater, a scientist from MIT and operates in crypto space. Dr. Arjuna Surana, founder and director Jellow Lab, founder Design India and director Solar Project. We welcome you all on today's panel. Thank you so much for being here. With this brief prelude, I would now request the ladies to throw some light as to how they have gone about embracing the digital technology in their respective areas. Archna ji, I think I can request you to please set the ball rolling on the topic.
Thank you, Neelofar. I think it's a great opportunity to be sharing this panel with such amazing women who really made a significant contribution in the space of the work area they are into. So I think we've already heard the introduction, but what my intention was that to bring women from different walks of life together. So the Women Mentors Forum that we represent here, and which has been, this panel has been powered by the Women Mentors Forum and supported by Arch College. The intention was to bring established women leaders from different parts of the, the country, and primarily to look at the city at the first place. So we really brought in professionals, from to have that interdisciplinary and the multidisciplinary understanding that each one of us can develop. Because in today's world, it's very, very important to embrace this kind of an understanding where we are not working in silos anymore. Technology is a great enabler. And because I am a design educator and have set up the institution for the last 22 years, we've seen that technology has played a great role. And with COVID posing a challenge, all that has accelerated. And I'm really glad that this DigiFest has brought in a lot of the student community, which is from all over Rajasthan, to really acquaint them with the new emerging technologies which will create the new future. While I understand that education has a great responsibility to fulfill the needs of the future, and the youth has a greater responsibility of creating a developed India. So I think technology and the digital technologies and the future and development are all going to be in sync and working hand in hand. So I'm really glad that women have a very special role. And when you hear our Prime Minister talking about, or our state, we've been talking about the role of women and how women can accelerate and bring velocity to development. कैसे महिलाओं का जो योगदान होगा उसी से हमारा कंट्री एक डेवलप्ड नेशन के रूप में कहलाया जाएगा, क्योंकि हम 50% ऑफ द वर्क फोर्स है. अगर हम जुड़ गए तो हमारी संस्कृति में जो हम अपनी संस्कृति को आगे लेकर के जो डेवलपमेंट करेंगे वो भारतवर्ष को वो पहचान देगा विश्व बाजार के अंदर में. सो क्योंकि मैं एजुकेशन से जुड़ी हुई हूँ तो हम स्टूडेंट्स के अंदर में हमारा यही प्रयत्न रहता है कि हम स्टूडेंट्स को न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज के साथ में जोड़ के रखें और साथ में उन्हें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा भिन्नता के साथ में जोड़ें ताकि उनका पूरा समग्र विकास हो सके. द होलिस्टिक लर्निंग हैपेंस. So that's what I.
So, Dr. Anjana, do you feel like
Ajanta ji is here from IIT Mumbai. She's a professor at IIT Mumbai. Teaching different technologies.
So, I would like to know, like, you have been into digital world from the beginning. I mean, your education, your background is all about digitization. So, you feel there is a difference in the perspective of women today in terms of digitization, or you must have felt the changes also in the situation, like the women participation and the women enrollment in the fields of digitization.
Right. So, thank you for inviting me to the forum. Thanks particularly to the government's initiative and Archna ji playing a seminal role in forefronting this area of design. Neelofar, what I'd like to do is, I want to broad base it a little bit so that we are able to broaden our perspective in terms of the early origins of digital technologies involvement in bringing people together, and within that the role that women have played. And I think it's always important to understand that today it's the digital technology paradigm that we're talking about, but as technologies unfolded across the decades, did we have women take on a role?
Exactly.
And what did they do at that point in time? And do we even hear about them? So I'd like to introduce very, very briefly a term that we don't even, the fact that we don't know about these women would tell me that you perhaps don't know about this term, or perhaps some of you know, which is that when we talk about digitization, we talk about the history of technology, and we use the word history, and they say history is his story, and they say that history is always written. History is always written by the winner, the winner, and not the vanquished. So the story of technology, as a co-evolution of history, has always been written by men, and that's why it's called history. And then in the 70s, when women rose up in revolt because their brothers, fathers, and others were sent off to Vietnam for reasons only the men knew, and they were absolutely inane reasons, they coined the term her story. And so, do we know about the term? Do our girls and boys? So it's important. It's equally important for the boys to know about the term. You know, it's not just us scooping up and talking to each other. It becomes an echo chamber, right? So let's understand the her story and the history of technology and how the digital paradigm came in within that. To cut a long story short, I'd like to refer to a woman designer, an engineer from she was in her she was in her 80s when I met her in 2003 in Hanover. Anna Castelli Ferreri. She was actually instrumental in introducing fiberglass technology and injection molding. And you see all those beautiful colored chairs in design, where actually it had her footprints and hands behind it. Do we know about it? We do not know. We only hear about all the men designers and Pantone and all of those technologies. Okay, so that's just to give you an indication of how lost we are when it comes to talking about women. But then I'd also like to say that things have got more equalized, because the first thing that digital technology does is to provide you a platform that's on your lap, literally, the laptop, and in your hands, the mobile phone, and that makes you unstoppable. And so it is actually the evolution of the technology of the devices that have brought technology closer to women and made it enabling. We've got to remember that. And so we also then should try and understand how can we enable those who need to be enabled through the particular platform. If we take away the platform, we take away the technology, right? Okay. So today, I'm sure Sumeeti will talk about it, the underserved community and the distances that we've bridged in bringing digital technologies to them. And I think it's very important to understand that within the underserved space, both girls and boys need to be supported. And then within that, of course, it's a nested thing. Within that, it's the girls who always get left out. And we know that there have been initiatives to bring the girls forth. Okay. So within that larger background, I'd like to say that, when Web 1.0 came in the early 90s, through the technology becoming www and in the hands of everybody, and we have to laud the men who made this happen. Tim Berners-Lee, who it was, in terms of the evolution of the technology, it stood at his doorstep to make it into www and give it to the public. And he was once asked, he was by that time at MIT, and he was asked, so why did you not keep it and sell it to the highest bidder? And he said, well, all technologies, what they sold are sold to the highest bidder. They remain within the confines of people's, drawing rooms and chambers. So if I didn't give it away, I know you're saying I would have become billionaire many times over. What would I do with all the wealth as compared to the wealth that's got generated today that will last humankind for such a long time, okay? Now, we have to laud men like that, right? We don't want to create silos in terms of men, women,
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
We want to build a larger network of nestedness where men, women, girls, their cohorts, boys, others help each other. If we can look at it as a larger network, then we become less antagonistic.
Exactly.
All right? So within that paradigm, then there are wonderful projects where people work together in co-working spaces, and digital technology being one of them. Along the way, I'll speak about a project very briefly, very early on, which had attracted the attention of the international community, the one that they spoke about many awards. And I think awards are important only to the extent that they let you understand that a new initiative has the potential to go miles ahead. Only to that extent awards are important, but we can speak about it along the way.
Yeah, surely. Thank you, Dr. Ajanta. Such an insightful story of history and her story. It's really, I could never imagine, like, this is the agenda behind all this, history and her story. So that's really very, very insightful. And I can feel the power now. After immediately revealing this, and we get to know about that this is the situation, like, I'm feeling emancipated individually. So I don't know, I'm sure you all must be feeling similar way. So everything is fabricated, I feel at times. Everything is, designed in such a way that our story remains behind, we are always at the back seat. So Sumeeti, I would like to know your views on the women participation in digitization in your workforce. You are co-founder Pratham Software. So that's a wonderful one of the leading software company. So please let us know more about how do you feel about women's participation in digitization.
Yeah, thank you, Neelofar, for giving me a chance to speak on this point. And first of all, it's a great initiative by government. And thank you, Archna, for inviting me to speak on this topic. Before I start, I just wanted to tell you a little bit from her story. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I have done my engineering in 1996. So that was the time when typically girls don't do engineering, right? एक या दो 200 में से एक दो लड़कियां होती थी, and parents have to be really bold enough to send them to the engineering college because neighbors बोलते थे अरे लड़की को engineering college में भेज दिया. So that was the time when I did my engineering. Because since starting, my father always realized that girls should get into the STEM education. So I always promote STEM education for the girls, not only for underprivileged, for all. I believe that we Indians are inborn talent. We have an inborn talent in science and mathematics. आप किसी को भी एक सब्जी लेने जाएगा या कुछ भी करेगा, he can quickly calculate कि उसका final bill क्या आने वाला है, right? And if you go to USA, and suppose you buy, they used to have the calculator. Without that, they are really helpless. They can't do anything. So this is our inborn talent. So why not we nurture our inborn talent? So this is my belief, and on that belief, I typically work and encourage everybody to get into the STEM education. And whatever we are seeing our India today is all because of this STEM education, right? Because I remember when we set up this company in year 2000 and we visited USA to meet one of our client. So I talked, okay, I live in Jaipur. He said, Jaipur, where is Jaipur? I said, it's in India. So then he said a very vague and very, कहते हैं ना, एक अजीब सा look दिया. India means, मतलब they are like कि पता नहीं हम कहाँ से आ गए हैं. So that was the time I have seen in my life in USA with many of the clients. But now it's a time everybody knows India. So India is on a map because of this IT development. So I personally believe, yes, STEM has given an opportunity, our country an opportunity, जहाँ हम एक proudly आज खड़े हैं, and you know that Prime Minister has given that जय जवान, जय किसान and जय विज्ञान, right? So
Anusandhan. Yes, the research, yes.
So I personally believe, yes, STEM education has to be worked upon. And if you see our statistics, earlier it used to be 1 or 2 or 3 girls in engineering college. Now it has raised to 35%. Right? So out of 100, you can say 35 are females and 65 are male, but it has to be increased. But it is far, far better. I have seen the statistics. In USA, it is only 19% going to science or towards engineering. So this is one of the very good opportunities, especially for females to get into IT fields. We have a lot of areas where women are excelling, like business analysts, like designers, QA. These are the spaces where women can do really great and should explore and get into STEM education.
And you feel there's a difference in the intake of the women taking up challenges of digitization in the technology and all?
Yes.
So you feel there's a change in that scenario also?
Yes, COVID is not a good thing which has happened, but has created some of the good thing for us. Now we all understand that we can sit at home and work, right? So this is one of the great thing which has happened to the married women. Right? They can now sit at home and do work from home. And very easily they can take care of their family and they can take care of their work. Because I always feel, see, typically what happens, 25 to 35 is the age when you excel or when you step up in your career. And this is the same age when you have to have your family as well. आपको शादी करनी होती है, then you have children, then you have to take care of your in-laws, children. तो उसमें कई बार कुछ females left out हो जाती थी. Now this work from home as concept is such a good thing. Now they are not left out and they have joined hands into this digital world.
So beautiful. So this is actually very, very visible now, that the participation of women in the digitization and all sectors like technology and all, whereas it used to be a thought process like they can't get into science and maths and digital technology and all. But then can I ask you if the ratio of women and men in the same sector, like software company you're managing?
So at the moment, as per NASSCOM records, it is 29.4%. Women are in IT field, but especially at the junior level, or somehow you can say it mid-level. Senior level, it is really very, very less.
I think that's quite encouraging.
Yeah, so it's not a good number, so I can't speak also, but I proudly say in our company, in my company, it is 31%.
Wonderful.
So that is good thing.
Wonderful.
And actually, we are promoting female to come to more and more into leadership role.
Yeah.
Because Neelofar, I just take few minutes.
Yeah, please.
इसलिए मैं हमेशा अपनी कंपनी में भी इट ऑलवेज हैपेंस वेन एवर देर इज अ प्रमोशन एक्सरसाइज हैपेंस, थोड़ा सा रहता है लेडीज पता नहीं टाइम देंगी नहीं देंगी, बट आई ऑलवेज फील women are great leaders. आप किसी घर में चली जाइए, अचानक कोई भी गेस्ट आ जाएगा, दे फूड विल बी रेडी. कैसे रेडी होगा, कौन करेगा, दे विल नेवर से सब्जी नहीं है, ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है, बट फूड विल बी रेडी, राइट? सो दे आर गुड मैनेजर्स. सो जब वो घर पे अच्छी मैनेजर है, डेफिनेटली इन प्रोफेशनल लाइफ दे विल बी गुड मैनेजर्स.
Thank you. Wonderful. That's really encouraging and inspiring, Sumeeti. Thank you so much. Now, Yashika, you are also into digital world. I mean, crypto. That's a very, very new term for people like us, you know. But then you have been there and then you have been managing things. So what is your take on women's role in digitization?
Thank you so much, Neelofar ji. And first of all, thank you, Government of Rajasthan, for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Archna ji, for inviting me to this panel. मैं हिंदी में बोल सकती हूँ? सबको हिंदी समझ आती है, राइट? ठीक है. तो मैं ये जब आप सब पैनलिस्ट बता रहे थे तो एक चीज़ मेरे दिमाग में चल रही थी. जब मैं छोटी थी तो हम स्कूल में ऐसे कहते थे, वो .com का एज था, तो पहले विमेन जो है वो डट के काम करती थी और फिर उसके बाद .com आया.
Wonderful. That's really nice.
डट के काम .com. और अब .com का एज भी पीछे छूट चुका है. अब हम एक ऐसी दुनिया में जा रहे हैं जहां पर अगर आपको ऐसे एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, ऐसे एक फेस्ट में आना है तो आपको यहां तक भी आने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप अपने घर बैठे बैठे इक्विपमेंट लगा लीजिए और आप दुनिया में कहीं भी एक क्लिक में टेलीपोर्ट हो सकते हैं.
True.
आप चाहें तो एक ऐसी दुनिया में जा सकते हैं जहां पर आप उड़ सकते हैं, जहां पर आप चल सकते हैं, जहां पर आप 10वें माले से कूदे तो भी नहीं आपका पैर टूटेगा. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट मेटावर्स. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट अ वर्ल्ड जहां पर हम सब ने अगर अपने अपने घरों में, मैं चेन्नई से आई हूं, आप जयपुर से हैं, आप लोग भी कहीं और से राजस्थान के पार्ट से आए होंगे, तो सोचिए कि हम अपने ही घरों में बैठ करके एक ही चुटकी में आईफिल टावर के सामने आ जाएं और यही वाली कॉन्वर्सेशन वहां पर हो.
Wonderful. Amazing.
राइट? तो हमें ये समझना होगा कि दुनिया तो इस रैपिड स्पीड पे चल रही है, क्या हम उस स्पीड पे चल रहे हैं?
Correct.
हम अभी भी उसमें जी रहे हैं. बिकॉज आई बिलीव कि विमेन आर वंडरफुल इन्वेस्टर्स. कहीं पर भी आई थिंक डीमोनेटाइजेशन में सबसे ज्यादा पैसा अगर कहीं से निकल करके आया होगा तो वो विमेन के कहीं कहीं जो क्या कहते हैं गुप्त जगहों से निकल करके आया होगा कि इतना इकट्ठा उन लोगों ने करके रखा था. दैट इज व्हेन वी रियलाइज्ड कि अपनी विमेन आर द टेरिफिक इन्वेस्टर्स. उनको पैसा बचाना आता है और उनको पैसा इमरजेंसी के लिए बचाना आता है.
Correct.
पर उसको हमारा पैसा वैल्यू लूज कर रहा है. आर वी अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट? कि यही 1917 में जब $1 ले सकता था, आज $1 में हमें 80 रुपए देने पड़ रहे हैं. वही जो आप में से कई लोग ऐसे होंगे जो 100 रुपए में अपनी पूरी एजुकेशन कर लिए होंगे. हम लोग थे जिन्होंने हजारों में करी और आज के बच्चे लाखों में कर रहे हैं. सो दैट इज हाउ आवर मनी इज लूजिंग वैल्यू. हम सोच रहे हैं कि हमने 100 साल मतलब 20 साल पुराना 100 रुपए अभी भी रख के रखा है, हमारे पास आज भी 100 रुपए बचा है. आई एम सॉरी, वो 100 रुपए आज 100 रुपए नहीं है. वो 100 रुपए जो उस टाइम बाय कर सकते थे, आज शायद वो सिर्फ 20 या 30 रुपए वर्थ की चीज बाय कर सकते हैं. और हम इतने फैंटास्टिक, अगर हमें सेव करना आता है तो हमारे मोड्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट क्या रहे हैं? सोना ले लो, ज्वेलरी ले लो, ज्वेलरी में खूब सारा सोना डालो, यही अपनी पूंजी है, यही आगे काम आएगी. गुड इन्वेस्टमेंट. और इतने इयर्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग में हम बहुत कंफर्टेबल हो गए हैं इस सॉर्ट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट से. बट इसके आगे चलें, प्रॉपर्टी है, इसके आगे चलें, सिल्वर भी है, उसके आगे चलें, स्टॉक मार्केट भी है, उसके आगे चलें, क्रिप्टो भी है.
Yashika, I think because of this tendency only we are able to sustain today.
Definitely
India
we are.
has emerged as a strong, economist. I mean, we are really doing so well if you see, compare it with other countries.
बिल्कुल.
So the credit goes to women again.
Definitely it does. And it has to go to the women because they have saved it so wonderfully that they know कि मेन कभी भी शायद हो सकता है सोचे कि अरे कर दो, ये ले लो, वो ले लो, वो ले लो, पर विमेन को पता है कि नहीं, बचा के रखो कि हमें चाहिएगा. बट उसको कहां पर नियोजन करें? आज आप सोच सकते हैं अरे क्रिप्टो, अरे बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है यार, छोड़ो, मेरे से नहीं होने वाला. छोड़ने से क्या होगा? अगर आपको पता है कि पूरी दुनिया उस तरफ जा रही है, कहते हैं कि अगर आप एक आदमी को शिक्षित करते हैं तो आप उस आदमी को शिक्षित करते हैं. अगर आप एक औरत को शिक्षित करते हैं तो आप पूरे परिवार को शिक्षित करते हैं. तो अगर आप लोग टेक्नोलॉजिकली फॉरवर्ड मूव करेंगे तो आप सोचें आपके बच्चे कितने टेक्नोलॉजिकली फॉरवर्ड मूव करेंगे। मैं अभी दुबई में थी मार्च में, और वहां पर वर्ल्ड एक्सपो चल रहा था, 6 मंथ्स का अपना वर्ल्ड एक्सपो था। इतना शानदार एक्सपो, 192 कंट्रीज का ब्रिलियंट डिस्प्ले ऑफ व्हाट टेक्नोलॉजी, व्हाट डिजिटाइजेशन, व्हाट वंडरफुल थिंग्स दे आर डूइंग। और वहां पर खड़े होकर के अगर हम देखते हैं कि हम कहां पर हैं, हम क्या कर रहे हैं, वहां पर एक जगह थी दुबई केयर्स जिसमें था कि 2030 में जो जॉब्स होंगे क्या आप उसके लायक हैं। आई एम सॉरी टू से जो आज के जॉब्स हैं वो 2030 में एग्जिस्ट नहीं करते हैं।
करेंगे, करेक्ट।
एंड हाउ आर वी रेलिवेंट फॉर दैट टाइम? उसके लिए हमें स्टेप अप करना पड़ेगा। जब तक हम चीजों को नहीं समझेंगे, जब तक हम टेक्नोलॉजी को नहीं समझेंगे, हम आगे मूव नहीं कर पाएंगे। और जिस दिन हम समझ लेंगे क्रिप्टो को नॉट जस्ट एज अ टूल ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट, दैट्स नॉट माय एडवाइस। माय एडवाइस इज टू अंडरस्टैंड द टेक्नोलॉजी, क्योंकि इसी के बेसिस पे मेटावर्स बन रहा है। मेटावर्स जैसे कि एक पैरेलल यूनिवर्स बन रहा है जहां पर हम एग्जिस्ट कर सकते हैं। जैसा मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया, आईफिल टावर पे हो सकते हैं आप चाहें तो अपने ही घरों में बैठ के। कोविड ने हम सबको जूम पर आना सिखा दिया, राइट? इससे पहले 2016 में जब मैं जूम पे मीटिंग्स लेती थी अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के, तो लोग कहते थे मीटिंग विदाउट ईटिंग किस काम की। और फिर 2020 में, मेरे को याद है 2013 में जब मैं यूएस गई थी, मैम ने बताया 96 में यूएस गए थे, तो लोगों ने पूछा, 2013 में भी वही हाल था। मैं गई थी यूएस हार्वर्ड में, मेरे को अपॉर्चुनिटी मिला था रिसर्च करने का, तो मेरे दादाजी तो बड़े सपोर्टिव थे, पर बाकी सब लोगों ने उंगली उठाई, अरे हाथ से निकल जाएगी छोरी, वापस नहीं आएगी, वहीं रह जाएगी। ये सब चीजें अभी भी एग्जिस्ट करती हैं, बट आई एम सो थैंकफुल मेरी फैमिली इतनी अच्छी थी, हम आगे गए। उस टाइम पर व्हाट्सएप नहीं आया था तो लगा था क्या जरूरत है व्हाट्सएप की, कोई जरूरत नहीं है, पर सीखा, घर वालों ने सीखा, क्योंकि बेटी को अगर रोटी बनानी नहीं आ रही तो व्हाट्सएप कॉल करके बता पा रहे हैं। आज 2020 में जब जूम पर पूरे दुनिया से कनेक्ट होना है तो जूम पे आना भी सीखा, वीडियो कॉल करना भी सीखा। तो जब हमारी जरूरत पड़ करके हम सीख सकते हैं, तो जिस जगह टेक्नोलॉजी जा रही है, जिस जगह पूरी दुनिया जा रही है, क्या हमें वो नहीं सीखना चाहिए?
करेक्ट,
बिल्कुल सीखना चाहिए। और इसीलिए आपने रिप्रेजेंटेशन की बात की थी, मैं आपको बताऊं क्रिप्टो में रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ वुमेन इंटरनेशनली भी बहुत पुअर है। इट इज ओनली 19% ऑफ द वुमेन हु आर इनटू क्रिप्टो एंड इट्स टेक्नोलॉजीज। तो ये आप कोई भी क्रिप्टो के इवेंट में चले जाइए, मैं दुबई में गई, मैं इंडिया में गई, और आपको वहां पर इतने सारे मेन दिख जाएंगे, उसके एवज पे 100 लड़कों पे 10 लड़कियां एवज आपको दिखेंगी, विच इज where we are working, the entire community is working, we are also working and we are trying कि कैसे हम इसको आगे लाएं। बट यहाँ मैं चाहूंगी कि आप सब समझें कि ये टेक्नोलॉजी ऐसी है जिसमें बहुत सारा पोटेंशियल है। इसको सिर्फ स्पेकुलेशन का पार्ट बहुत छोटा है, इससे जो बन सकता है वो इतना बड़ा है कि उसको अगर आज हम जान लें, आज आप अपने हस्बैंड और अपने बच्चों को मोटिवेट कर लें, तो आई थिंक अपने आगे के जो आपकी जनरेशंस हैं वो सुधर सकती हैं।
Thank you, Yashika. Very, very inspiring. And I'm sure we all will go today home and then look into what is crypto and what is metaverse and how can we still stay strong, you know, with the economic contribution. So wonderfully explained. Now I come back to, as we all have seen now today, what all we have on our platter. So it's quite enriching and very, very impressive. But more important remains the question, what next? Would you please like to, Archna ji, I'll come back to you. Would you please like to express your views on future role or contribution that women can make with a difference in the times to come?
देखिए, दो बातें हैं, माइंड सेट और हार्ट सेट, जिसे हम कहते हैं मानसिकता, और दूसरी बात है हमारे दिल की। तो हम चाहे क्रिप्टो आएगा, न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज आएगी, सीखने की जो प्रक्रिया है वो नई नई आती चली जाएगी, लेकिन जरूरी क्या है हमारे लिए? तो मैं बात मानसिकता की कर रही थी कि माइंड सेट और हार्ट सेट, सारी चीजें बदलती जाएगी, पर आपका जो अपना मानस है, उस मानस को सबसे पहले देखने की जरूरत है। एक महिला होने के नाते मैं एक छोटा सा उदाहरण दूंगी। किसी ने किसी के साथ में, मेरे जान पहचान में ही, मेरे आसपास ही किसी ने किसी के साथ में बदतमीजी करी। क्या उसके अंदर में हिम्मत थी? कौन टेक्नोलॉजी आएगी उस समय? नहीं। वहां आपकी मानसिकता क्या है, उसके अंदर में क्या, अंदर का जो अपना द पावर विद इन यू, आप पहले उसे जागृत करें। तो मैं जहां डिजिटल की बात करने लग रहे हैं, ये ठीक है एक भौतिक संसार के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से हम शायद नए दौर के लिए तैयारी कर रहे हैं, बट उस नए दौर की तैयारी के अंदर में भी हमें हमारी मानसिकता के ऊपर देखना पड़ेगा, क्या हमारे अंदर का बल बढ़ रहा है क्या। तो उस लड़की में इतनी हिम्मत नहीं थी कि वो इस इंसान के बारे में बता सके या उसे उठा के एक वापस अपना रिएक्शन दे सके। मतलब अगर इतनी कमजोरी पढ़े लिखे लोगों में है तो क्या टेक्नोलॉजी कुछ कर पाएगी। मैंने उसी के हाथ से उस इंसान को 10 थप्पड़ लगवाई। पहले मैंने कहा तुम्हें पता होना चाहिए कि तुम्हारे अपने टेक्नोलॉजी क्या है, ये है, ये अपना मानस है, ये अपना मन है, ये सबसे बड़ी हमारी अपनी पहली टेक्नोलॉजी है, उसका हमें पूरा इस्तेमाल करना जरूरी है, तभी हम इन टेक्नोलॉजीज का इस्तेमाल कर पाएंगे। क्योंकि ये बदलता हुआ माहौल हमें चैलेंज करेगा और ज्यादा चैलेंज करेगा। आज देखिए इस दुनिया के नियम अलग है, नेटिजन होने के नियम अलग है, वहां पे साइबर क्राइम, साइबर सिक्योरिटी, ये सब चीजें आज इतने रूप में हैं जहां पर महिलाओं को बहुत संभल करके अपना जो हम अपनी पहचान बनाने में लगे हुए, हम कैसी पहचान बना रहे हैं वहां पर। जहां पर मैम ने उदाहरण दिया कि वो जो इंजेक्शन मोल्डिंग की जो चेयर्स बनी हैं, या जो आप जिसको हम एक्रिलिक के वो जो अपने सुप्रीम वगैरह जो ब्रांड्स की चेयर्स देखते हैं, अब वो देखिए, दिस इज अ रेवोल्यूशन कंप्लीटली, बट नोबडी नोज अबाउट इट, राइट। कहने का मतलब यह है कि जब हम इतना काम करने लग रहे हैं तो हमारी पब्लिक इमेज, जब टेक्नोलॉजीज नहीं आ गई है जहां पर अब पुरुष और महिला का भेद टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं करती, समाज करता था पर किंतु टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं करती है, तो उस टेक्नोलॉजी का क्या हम पूरा ये फायदा उठा रहे हैं कि ये भेदभाव से दूर निकल करके हम अपनी ब्रांड, पर्सनल ब्रांड को बहुत बेहतरीन तरीके से दुनिया को दिखा पाए। सो जरूरत है कि हम इन न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज को एम्ब्रेस करें और देखें कि हमारा पर्सनल ब्रांड एज ए ह्यूमन बीइंग कैसा सशक्त है, वो प्रोजेक्ट सही मायने में सही लोगों को इंस्पायर करने के लिए हो।
Very true. Very nice. Very well said.
मेरा ये कहना है।
So, Dr. Ajanta, would you like to throw some light on the same topic?
Yeah, I think I'll take this thought forward where we need to recognize that technology is a very effervescent thing. You know, it's transitory. Today it's this, tomorrow it's something else. And I think we pay too much attention to the current technology, forgetting that this will pass and then something else will come. But in the meantime, are we preparing ourselves to embrace what is, to first recognize what is important and then embrace? And of course, that mindset will decide whether I will let my daughter go to Harvard or I'll let my daughter study engineering, you know, or whether I will say, no, you better be safe, you know, you need to get married, you need to keep your limbs and heart together and, you know, attend to family and family only. So I think I'll do a couple of stories here.
Yeah, please,
okay?
please.
The first one is not a story. The first one is a very simple assertion by Professor Amartya Sen, the economics Nobel laureate, who also incidentally happens to be my mama, and he and my mother studied together. And I'm very blessed by the fact that these were people, families who were responsible for setting up, helping Rabindranath Tagore, Abanindranath Tagore, and to set up Shantiniketan. And what was the attitude towards women over there? A lot of people don't know that Abanindranath Tagore, that is Rabindranath Tagore's son, had fallen in love with someone else when he was married to Pratima Devi. And it was actually Tagore who kept Pratima Devi company, taking her for early morning walks, letting her be with him while he composed various things, and in the process, Pratima Devi became mentored by Tagore. A lot of people don't know this. Tagore himself was actually mentored by his sister-in-law Kadambari Devi, on the basis of which Noshterneed, the Broken Nest book was written, and Charulata film was made by Satyajit Ray, where you know, in Tagore's family, it was a very aristocratic family, and men and women were homeschooled. And Tagore's sister-in-law, older sister-in-law, that is older brother's sister, Kadambari Devi, was very close to Tagore. And so he learned his you know, his sense of Sanskriti came from actually women. And Tagore had, the Tagore family had very powerful women. So they say that the eldest brother, Gaganendranath Tagore, his wife, in those days went to England. She did horse riding, wearing a sari, where she wore the sari like this, which was not the way it was worn in those days. She attached a brooch, and she told everybody that I do not have to abandon anything because I can make it the way I want to make it. I'm just talking about mindsets, okay? So from
Correct,
there we
very
come,
true. Yeah.
Right? Okay, so from there, so we have our own mentors. I mean, these are fantastic mentor spaces from which we can draw inspiration. And we constantly keep looking at Carly Fiorina or others, but, you know, we have to go back and, you know, try and understand mindsets. I think the main weaponization here is through mindset. All right, so we go back to Amartya Sen. He said in a book kind of recently, I think about 5-6 years ago, if you had to calculate the amount you need to pay to your spouse for doing all the work she does, and if all the men in the world had to calculate that amount, it would be so huge that you'd realize you wouldn't be able to afford it. Now, if you were to monetize that, then the GDP of an economy would shine.
Wonderful.
We are not doing that. What we are doing is, we are letting that become so-called free work.
Free work,
There is no free work, there is no free lunch. By not paying our women at home or outside by inadequately paying them, we are bringing down our own GDP. You know, the whole construct of GDP has suffered because we do not pay them. The moment you say, if I had to get her to, like, she cooks every day, I go off to work. If I had to pay her for that, because then she would do other things, this is how the economy would benefit or suffer the way it is. So that's the first thing that I'm saying, more in terms of metrics. It's a tangible thing I'm able to say.
Another country, the other country is monetizing it? I mean, the digital...
They are.
They're putting into the...
Well, in the Scandinavian countries, they are, because they say that every time a woman stays at home for reasons of
Taking care of the family.
not being able to step out, this is the amount we are losing in the economy.
That's wonderful
You know,
research.
so they have started, and Scandinavia has always led the way in terms of true welfare economics. You know, it's a true welfare society where it's not freebies. You know, it is everything is calculated in terms of welfare and welfare index. You know, Human Development Index. Okay, so then I come to the two stories. Okay, the first story would be where I'm nearly forgetting what the other stories, but this one let me just talk about. You know, we were very fortunate as part of IIT. Yeah, I remember the other story. Let me tell the other story first. And this is pretty much what Sumeeti was saying. When I first came in as a student at IIT, so at IIT Bombay, there were 10 hostels. So there were 9 for men and 1 for women. Today, there are 14 hostels, 2 for women, rest for men.
Oh,
not much has changed.
Not much has
okay?
changed. In fact, it has
and
gone
those
down.
hostels are bigger in size. Hostel 10 was not even... So mine was Hostel 10, and 1 to 9 were for men. And Hostel 10 was located in front of the director's bungalow, because then unke nazar pe hum rahenge, protected rahenge. Then we have a fantastic library at IIT Bombay, the Central Library, which has one of the best collections, definitely in Asia, collection of books of science and others. So we were allowed to... students and others were allowed to use the library till 10 at night. It's a beautiful campus. And so for women, it was not allowed. It was like less time. And then there were a bunch of communist women that they fought their way through and said, nothing doing, you have to make it equal. And guess the kind of comments that used to be made about them. And they said another thing. They said, ye hai ladies hostel, or wo hai hostel 1 to 9. Isko kyun nahi hostel 10 kehte ho? Isko ladies kyun bana diya? You know, and and the other thing was that the ratio when I went there was we just 100 students, and there were like 3, 4, 5,000 men. That was the kind of ratio under which we worked. Okay, and I noticed that you can actually get cynical about the men.
Correct.
And I know the boys, the IT boys IT men are not very socially adjusted. They may be brilliant, but they're terrible people actually in some ways. And yes, because they think so much about them, because their families have have elevated them to to those heights, and then they go and earn crores, they go abroad, but they never understand that. They always think that, and the women they're married to are not, can never be as brilliant as them. And then when they see a woman from IIT, they will be condescending. And I have fought through all that, and it really riles them to see women come in and they can no longer make fun of you because you're actually getting good scores. So then they'll make fun of your appearance. They'll say, "Usko kaun shadi karega?" This is the general.
So,
mindset,
Dr. Ajanta,
attitude.
here I feel like, as Archna ji said, that we need to have that kind of mansikta.
That's why I gave this example.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
lovely, beautiful stories, and I think we should keep listening to this generation, should keep listening to such insightful stories so that we feel we can strengthen our mansikta and mantan, taki we face it.
The thing has changed. You should now see the women at IIT, the girl students. It's ulta ho gaya abhi. As a director of a project in Singapore, when my IIT students came there to work with us, one incident I'll say, it was kind of funny. There were three of them girls. One was boy, the others were going to come later. In fact, one of them is with NASA, one of them is with Microsoft, and the third girl is in Silicon Valley, and this boy is in India. Very nice boy. He left Microsoft to do something else. But the story. So they're like, this boy was very quiet and good looking, Hrithik Roshan looking. We're like, why are you so quiet today? So I saw the girls sort of laughing, ganging together and laughing. Like, why are you guys giggling? Like, ma'am, you have to hear about this. What happened? He said that, in Singapore you have this drink. It's made of something, I don't remember. It's terrible smelling drink, and it's a national thing for them, So they said to him, you go stand in line, it's a huge queue, we'll be here, aap jaake lekar aao. So he went and picked up the drink, and he took a sip, and his face contorted, and Rohit came back and he looked around like these guys are laughing. And so I said to the girls, I have an only daughter who's recently got married. I said to them, Rohit, I worry about the boys today. Because मैं पहले कहती थी, इनको मत सताओ, लड़कियों को मत सताओ, because I've seen my daughter, like, these boys will call and she's like, you're not talking to him anymore. Like, oh, he's so boring. I'm like, poor thing, you'll break his heart. Talk to him. He's like, oh, he's so boring. And the girls are like that too. So they have become empowered.
Yeah.
And they're not that bichara. We think they are.
Yeah.
They are bold. And I just think that, I just fear that boldness may be used in ways that are not necessarily bold. And there we have to channelize that energy. I think that has
and
come
I
across
think here
society
again the
to channelize.
digitization and the mentorship, the mentoring has actually played a very, very important role in this. And we all have been associated with Women Mentors Forum, Arjuna ji, and quite intimately we are connected. And constantly we have been striving to promote women leadership. So here, related to her stories also, so the next point of discussion is to how do we want
just,
to
add
use
a
this
little
tool?
bit here to what she said.
Yeah.
So understanding that, there's a whole initiative of having inclusivity for women on boards, wherever they are. And as ma'am has said that, you're seeing not a very positive side of that kind of development. So that's where I'm again going to be pointing out our brand image is what we need to really look at. Are we going to be detrimental to the community with this kind of an approach? Or are we going to be more inclusive? We're going to embrace, all genders. Today, you're looking at not just male and female gender. Today, there are other genders alongside, right? And the world is talking about empathy, right? And when we talk about empathy today, so I'm going to go to what Sumeeti said. So Sumeeti has been into STEM education. So that's science, technology, engineering, and medicine, right? Mathematics, right? So why STEM? STEM has moved on to becoming STEAMed. STEAM bana pehle A ke saath mein with the addition of arts. If you don't have arts into your life, you are missing out the true beauty of life. So arts is very, very essential for STEM to flourish. If there is no arts, STEM will not. We will become like robots. We will be becoming like mechanical people, right? So art brings beauty to everything. Then comes E, entrepreneurship. That's the STEAM ke saath mein E. Then comes D, design. So it's steamed completely. And you know what it is? When STEAM has the power.
So
STEAM has true power.
it enhances your self-esteem
What water
also.
can do, STEAM can just do something phenomenally different. So it's very important to understand that today education is not about being in silos or being about a particular discipline. It mingles as life mingles. Life is not in compartments. Similarly, education cannot be in compartments. And we really need to understand the importance of design. Because हम जब empathy की बात कर रहे हैं, understanding की बात कर रहे हैं, observation की बात कर रहे हैं, that is the foundation for design to begin thinking, the thinking process. को design thinking का first step कहते हैं, empathize, understand, observe, explore. Right? Till you actually test it into the market. Something that's relevant for people's good and welfare. Today, it's not about a chair. It's about the whole ecosystem. What you're doing when you're creating something. So as women, designers, because I sit on an international panel now, we're looking at women in design. Why? Because all products were largely designed by men. And if women were equally playing a role, what kind of products and services would there be in the market?
Absolutely.
Because the way we perceive things, we look at things, is completely different from how men look at.
Correct.
And when we are staying together as two genders, or now with so many multi things where we have transgenders to other things where there's a big movement all over the world going about in terms of embracing. So there's an opportunity for people to look, to understand and observe and empathize very differently. But presently, with history being history, I think it's beautiful. We have to now say, when we do research, look into history.
Yeah.
And I think there's a whole new perspective we will be coming up with, which is not a part of our research. And that's where, again, I'm going to say, I think somewhere the mindset is not about creating disparities, they're not about, divide and rule. The point here is to be more inclusive, embrace the beauty of all being together. So from STEM, I have been specifically wanting for people who promote STEM to move on to becoming STEAMed.
Sumeeti, you are okay with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Without design, science won't exist.
Great.
So design is very, very important, even in science also.
So we grow in harmony.
Yeah, exactly. So
Wonderful.
it has to go everything all together. So
Arts and entrepreneurship. Today, entrepreneurship is very key because that's, that's putting it into application. I say entrepreneurship is not about making money. It's again a mindset of value creation. Value creation. Money is one value. There's so many values, right? And when you create immense value, you are an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship has to be a part of our teaching and learning systems.
So we really need to grow and look into things very deeply and profoundly. So how can we use the tool of digitization in investing in other women? How can we use the tool of digitization?
Can you come again with a
Yeah,
little more detail?
digitization is a big tool in our
Right.
hands in today's
Yes.
world. So how can we invest in other women? And how can we create more leaders? How can we use the tool to, using technology.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm taking this question. Okay. So, Neelofar very rightly asked question. Again, I come back because I'm from IT. So, my whole knowledge is revolving around IT only. Yes, digitization definitely helped women a lot, and women should definitely get a lot of benefit out of this. Say, for example, I'll tell you one thing. There is algorithm which we write in our software, right? Algorithm are some of the very complex things. Just for example, Google में search engine का algorithm है. Yeah, किसने लिखा? Men ने लिखा. But nowadays, female are equally participating in it because I'm telling you, women are really great into that because see what happens, women do multitasking. ठीक है, वो जब काम कर रही होती हैं, everything around going, you are working at home, your kids is saying something, your husband is saying something, your maid is asking you something, your in-laws are asking something. उस सब को होते हुए you are working on yours. So they are really good with कि चारों और क्या चल रहा है and with that they keep on working. So जब algorithm लिखते हैं तो उसमें women really nowadays they are really very good. And especially in my company, when we write some complex thing, female are involved because उनको surroundings के साथ में वो idea लेके चलते हैं. Once you have what is happening in your surrounding, your code will never give you any bug. It will definitely go flawless. So this is one of the aspects.
Not be cribbing that we are doing multitasking.
Yes, it is.
Because that is a blessing.
बिकॉज सारे यूज केसेस हैं, इन सारे यूज केसेस के साथ वी हैव टू वर्क, है ना, और ये एक प्रैक्टिकल यूज केसेस हैं. एंड वंस यू आर हैव अ गुड कंट्रोल ऑन योर यूज केसेस, यू कैन वर्क वेरी गुड विद द digital world.
That's lovely. I would like to add on this point from a personal experience. So I head a professional organization called Terapant Professional Forum, which has engineers, doctors, lawyers, MBAs, everybody, CAs, everyone. So usme I head the women organization, the women head. So I have around 1,500 professionals, and we see so we usually have this business network sort of a thing where we understand from each other from all over India. We professionals gather and we understand what sort of businesses do we do. So I have been a part of business networking where there were mostly men, and they used to say, okay, this is our specific business that we do, and they would tell about their own businesses. And then I introduced one business networking session for just women, and the difference I could see, every woman that came into that had about 10 particular things that she was doing at the same time. आपने घर के एग्जाम्पल से जोड़ करके इसको बहुत ब्यूटीफुली बताया. मैं आपको बता रही हूँ, प्रोफेशनली वो लोग 10 चीजें एक साथ हैंडल कर रही हैं. वो आर्ट में भी हैं, वो कुछ अपना एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप भी कर रही हैं, वो अपने बच्चों के लिए भी आगे कर रही हैं, एंड दे आर इनटू मल्टीपल फील्ड्स. वो गिफ्टिंग में भी हैं, वो घर बैठे भी कर रही हैं, उनके साइड में एक और एक कंपनी है, एक स्टार्टअप में वो है. अच्छा, समाज लेवल पर भी वो काम कर रही हैं, दूसरे विमेन को भी हेल्प कर रही हैं, मेंटर कर रही हैं. तो उस पूरे इन दोनों चीजों से मैंने लास्ट में एक क्वेश्चन पूछा. उस हमारी पूरी मीटिंग में एक ही मेल मेंबर थे, तो मैंने उनसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछा कि आपने इनसे पहले जो दूसरे नेटवर्क्स अटेंड किए और जो आज अटेंड किया, आपने देखा होगा कि कितना बड़ा डिफरेंस है कि यहाँ पर हर विमेन कुछ ना कुछ मल्टीपली कर रही है. आई डिड नॉट फाइंड इवन वन विमेन जिसने कहा कि मैं सिर्फ ये एक चीज कर रही हूँ. तो एक्चुअली उन्हें शर्म आ गई और उन्होंने कहा कि इसलिए शायद क्योंकि हमें कमाना पड़ता है तो हमें एक में ही फोकस होना पड़ता है और विमेन को क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है. ये गलत था. विमेन में ये कैपेसिटी है कि वो इतनी सारी चीजें साथ में कर सकती हैं, तो वो अपने टाइम का नियोजन भी कर सकती हैं, वो टाइम मैनेज भी उस हिसाब से कर सकती हैं कि कहां पर कितना टाइम देना है और किस चीज को करने से कहां पर क्या बेनिफिट होगा. वो 10 चीजों को साथ में सोच पा रही हैं, मैनेज कर पा रही हैं, प्लान कर पा रही हैं और एग्जीक्यूट करके जब दिखा रही हैं.
I have a question, Yashika.
Yes.
What if men were to multitask with technology? Is there any technology with a woman's mindset that could be used by men?
आजकल वो आते हैं ना, गूगल कैलेंडर में आप अपने सारी चीजें डाल लो. एनी एंड एवरी मीटिंग दैट यू हैव, जस्ट पुट इट ऑन गूगल कैलेंडर एंड देन कीप मेकिंग नोशन में नोट्स और सारे अपने एयर टेबल पे डाल करके अपनी सारी चीजों को. सो बिकॉज वी नीड एप्स टुडे टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हाट वी नीड टू डू, हाउ माई डे लुक्स लाइक एंड वेयर आई वांट टू गो.
Point here is that it's about the mindset, right?
Exactly.
Man would say, मैं तो एक काम करता हूँ, मैं तो वही ठीक से करूंगा, मैं तो कर ही नहीं सकता दूसरा. Now, अब आप mindset shift करने की बात कर रहे हैं. So when I run a women mentors forum and we are all members of it, we have a lot of other members who are very senior women. So what we are doing, we are trying to alter mindsets, right? कि अगर आपके अंदर में वो मानसिकता है कि आप अपने आप को कमजोर समझते हो या आप कर नहीं सकते हो, you are inhibited, that you know I have in-laws or this or that, all these are barriers of the mind.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
So if you have this as a barrier of the mind, consider if you want men to be like, if women have stepped up to take on all the responsibilities that men could do alongside she's doing all the additional stuff, then even men can do that, right? So how do we change their mindset? Do you have any answer this way? How technology, what kind of technologies could enable men to become more multidisciplinary in their thinking and approach? Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, Dr. Ajanta.
Actually, this, check, can you hear?
Hello, hello.
Take this. I'm scared to take this mic because Yashika is so powerful when she speaks. It might scare me. I'm just joking. So, this very nicely frames the second story that I was going to say. We've been very fortunate to be able to work with international organizations, one of them being Microsoft. Because of Microsoft's reputation that it is a monopoly, that it overtakes everybody, etc., when we first started going to Redmond, the headquarters at the Microsoft research, it's called MSR, we used to be like, we used to be very quiet and a little worried that because there'll be large spaces and, there's art from around the world, one of them being this slab of the Berlin Wall that was gifted to Bill Gates, that was taken by ship and then Bill Gates put it up in that space. So it's a very intimidating space. It's beautiful, the original large Picassos, etc. And, we'd be, and Bill Gates, he would hold something called a Think Week session every year, where he would invite gifted faculty members from around the world, from various universities, to come and spend a week at Microsoft. That's how we used to go. So, and then we would have the opportunity to meet Bill Gates. And that would not be very easy because people would be selected, put into the Kodiak auditorium. And if you have to ask a question, then you would have to hold up a placard and then you would be allowed or not. That's the kind of space I'm talking about. So obviously Bill Gates is, you would think, is a very intimidating person, right? And then he'd come on the platform with Rick Rashid or one of those, who would help him answer some of the questions. And then those questions would be asked. And in that hall of 800, there would be like 3-4 women like us, some from Harvard, some from CMU. That's it. That's about it, okay? Doesn't say much. I'm talking about 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, and not a lot has changed in that space. So one time I asked Bill Gates a question. I said, so I'm just saying that we have a lot of, you asked the question, how can we find technology that supplants this mindset so that men can do multitasking and women, while multitasking, can be recognized for what they're doing and that is monetized. Correct. Roughly that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we need to understand that in long-standing cultures like ours, not just India, many other cultures, I keep saying that there's a whole retinue of such cultures, where these things have got encoded in what we call tacit knowledge. We know, but we don't express them because we know adequately enough, we feel it's not necessary to express. And sometimes we try to express it, we don't know the wherewithal to express them. So a lot of tacit knowledge actually guides women, especially women and the elderly. So I asked Bill Gates, I said, we have, everybody calls him Bill this, so, I said Mr. Gates, it's very odd to call him Bill. They're like, Mr. Gates, I come from India, and in India, the best chefs are called Thakurs and they're men. The artisan is the master weaver, etc., men, and so on. And always forgetting that there are women in the background helping them. In the artisan space, it's the woman who's sitting and chipping away at bamboo, stone, etc., while the master weaver or the master artisan goes out there and receives the President's Award. Okay. The woman's role is not acknowledged. It's just taken for granted. So then I said, okay, I'm not making into a gender observation. I'm going to make it into an optimization observation, which is that he had, at that point in time, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, given laptops to different families in Kerala, okay? So I said that you've given these laptops to the men because you think men go out, they work, they know about these things, so they'll pick it up better. Now, what if I were to say that instead of giving it to the men, that you had given it to the women two things would happen. First, the men drink, they lose their laptop, they'll destroy their laptop, they will learn, they don't have the time to teach their children. So it's just a one-point education.
Yeah.
You gave it to the woman, first she would protect the laptop. She'll wipe it
Multiple
every day,
uses,
she'll
yes.
keep it nicely. Then she'll make sure every child in the family has access to it. Then she'll make sure she sits and tries to understand. If she can't understand, she'll get the neighbor's boy to come and say, "Thoda sa batao na, to main unko bata sakti hu."
How true.
Right? And then in the process, the laptop would get optimizedly used. And then it would create an optimization space where the men are not in charge of the laptop. The household is in charge of the laptop. And the household's leadership is the woman because the men are not at home. Right? So what was his response? I was just thinking that if it was Mukesh Ambani or one of those, Mahindra, Anand Mahindra, they would like, quickly give me a reply, right? He didn't do that. He's a very shy person. He looked away and he thought for a while and he looked back at me and said, I would like to meet you and I would like to have a discussion with you because I never thought along these lines.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting because all the men in the room, like the head of Georgia Tech, head of this and that, many of them we know, would come and say, Ajanta, why don't you come and spend some time with my students? Like, abhi aapko pata chala ki students ke saath hum time spend kar sakte hain. I had to speak to Bill Gates for you to understand what women can do.
Correct.
That's a very derivative way of understanding how talented women can. I'm not talking about me. I'm just talking about women, like Meera Nair, the director. She's awesome. How often do we talk about her? James Cameron's wife, the director of Titanic, James Cameron's wife is an Oscar-winning director. How many people know her name?
True.
She did Hurt Locker and those films, right? We don't know. I'm just saying that we need to understand that if you want to optimize spaces, if you want to bring in Amartya Sen's monetization of women so that our GDP can flourish, then we don't have to be kind-hearted to women. We simply have to be objective towards women, and we don't have to, if we separate women out of men and have forums which are for women, it's not going to work because the men are not hearing what we have to say, right? So,
And just imagine, women are struggling to, get recognized.
yes.
Their potential is not being recognized
No, not
well.
at all. And they're
so they're
just more
struggling.
harshly,
And
yeah.
again, adverse circumstances, then they're working.
Yes.
I have an objection here.
Bataiye, please.
That is not correct that men are not struggling.
No, they are
Don't see
struggling.
that. We are at least talking about it because we talk about it. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. That is not a good thing. They're foolish if they're doing that. That's why they say you need to be vulnerable. They are equally struggling. And it is their inner struggle that the women is facing, the problems of their inner struggle.
Correct.
Because women
that's a different
absorb,
perspective,
women
yes.
soak. They're soaking all the challenges of the spaces around them.
Agree. Wonderful.
So, I don't see, any kind of a gender kind of thing where we need to be, appraising ourselves or showing the other gender this thing. I think we are, जिसको हम कहते हैं ना, पूरक है. We are complementing forces.
Bilkul.
And we need to be complementing. That's where the beauty of life exists.
Healthy competition for the growth. Yes.
And the other thing what you said was, women are striving. I'm sorry, women are not striving. Nobody is your competition except you own. आपका अपना खुद का competition आप हैं. You challenge yourself, you raise your bar there. You put your benchmark there. There is nobody who can stop you. Nobody.
So
And
to,
I think
to
that is
understand
the mindset where anybody is stopping us. Oh, no, nobody is stopping us.
To understand this also, Archna ji,
I
we
think
need
if-
to come to that level to understand that.
No,
you know.
we are generous, so we just allow. We are generous. We allow. चलो तू ले लो, तुम नाम ले लो, कोई बात नहीं है. अभी माँ हूँ मैं बोलूँगी बेटे को तू ले ले, कोई बात नहीं है, बेटा है तू. मेरा क्रेडिट भी उसको दे दूँगी मैं. ठीक है, क्योंकि we are generous, देने आता है हमको. So वो giving का जो वो है, that essence of giving, I think women who are getting now evolved, are they really giving? Because it's taken them a tough time to be wherever they are. They're not
Correct.
giving anymore.
Correct.
They're not giving. Why I started the Women Mentors Forum was, we want women who are evolved, who have moved on to a particular level, they give.
They become the giver.
They become givers. Rather than just, you know, because there are only few women and they have struggled, so they are up and up and up and up and up. They become big.
Very well said.
Right?
Yeah.
Huh?
It will not be very different from
Yeah, they won't be different from a man. So
Very
it's,
well
if you want to bring that kind of thing, men are doing that. There are a lot of men who beautifully support women. They're amazing men, you know. I mean, so I don't want to discount there. So what is important here is that even when I said, you know, our brand image, our position, I mean, we have to be very carefully creating that for each one of us to learn from in this environment.
And we have to accept and understand, acknowledge our potential also.
Again, I think it's an individual issue. I think why we say that, you know, why we are doing the mentoring relationship, you know, so that you can open up with each other, talk, share, understand where it is, right? And I think there is a deep conditioning of generations, you know, that
Correct.
we are not good enough
So,
to do certain things. Yeah. So we can have a
that is
couple
what-
of questions
Yeah,
from the
I was
audience.
just about
I
and take it
just
up
wanted
there.
to add one point with all this conversation coming out, because I'm also a menstrual cup person who has started her own brand. And from the last 7 years, when I go around India and I tell people that why you should be using a menstrual cup, and because I was researching so much into this, I realized that, you know, there have been age-old taboos that have existed, and the way they have existed is also in some way or the other impacting this entire issue that we're talking about. Okay, in the previous times there was those huts, they were isolation huts, जहाँ पर ये कहा जाता था कि भाई, because they did not have Dettol hand wash then to be, you know, sanitized properly with their hands and what they were using, they did not have pads, they did not have hygienic measures. तो उनका अब उसी हाथ से आप खाना बनाओगे तो आप खाना मत बनाओ, आप थोड़े दिन एक आइसोलेशन हट में रहो जहाँ पे जब आपका हो जाए पीरियड खत्म तो आप वापस आ जाना, रेस्ट अच्छे से रेस्ट करो, बिकॉज मेन जितना आयरन एक दिन में लूज करते हैं उसका 10 गुना हम अपने पीरियड्स में लूज आउट करते हैं हर महीने. तो वो जो था वो हमारी कन्वीनियंस के लिए बनाया गया था, पर करते 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 आप सोचिए जनरेशंस में आज मेरे ऐसे फ्रेंड्स हैं जिनके घर अगर आप पीरियड्स में जा रहे हो तो वो आपको टच नहीं करेंगे, अगर उन्होंने आपको टच कर लिया तो नहाना पड़ेगा आपको, उनको लाइट टच करनी है वो बेड पर नहीं बैठ सकते हैं, खाना अछूतों की तरह दिया जाता है, the plates that they are touching, that plate needs to be washed.
What you're saying is that it has been dogmatized, right?
Yes.
So what we need to understand is the purpose behind it, understand the deeper level. All these are, ये सब रूढ़ीवाद जो भी है, ये सब विकृतियां हैं समाज की, which we call as wicked problems, right? So what we can do is only by sharing, by talking about it, right? If we don't share, that's where we are losing out. So when we're talking about men, I think they need to equally share like women. And when I do the Women Mentors Forum, the mentoring walk, I've seen men come to me and say, madam, we don't have such forums, you know, how amazing it is that you can talk and share. Right? So I think we should have the house open for a couple of questions. I think we've had a very fertile conversation today with going from Bill Gates to going till the...
To Tagore and...
No, Bill Gates, Tagore, and then she goes down to the ladder, down there.
Yeah.
It's interesting, yeah.
So questions,
we have, I
please.
think, another session which is already in the pipeline, right? So, no?
When you take the drugs,
Huh?
what are the effects of? When you take drugs, what are the effects on your brain?
So what kind of drugs are you talking about? And what has it got to do with technology?
नहीं, Dr. Anita.
नहीं, डॉक्टर अनीता भंडारी हैज नॉट जॉइंड अस. वो ENT सर्जन है, सो उनका टेक्नोलॉजी बेस्ड बिजनेस है. वहाँ पे 200 क्लिनिक्स चलाती हैं ऑल ओवर इंडिया. हाँ, 200 क्लिनिक्स है उनके.
I thought like she's there.
Oh, there.
No. She
And
has a
what do you think
technology
about-
driven business.
What do you think about the spirituality? I believe in rituals.
See,
So
today's
I-
session is all about women being in the space of technology, right? So when we're talking about
It's
you
about the
talking.
leadership, no?
हाँ,
It's
हाँ
about
जी,
the
हाँ जी,
leadership.
हाँ जी, women's
You are
lead.
talking about the menstruation cycle, right? But I believe that rituals are very important in our Hinduism. I believe in rituals. So I don't enter in a temple or in a kitchen when I am on my periods. So what do you think about that?
It's
Am
all
I-
fine. It's all about how you think is correct
It's
for you.
my perspective, no?
It's a personal choice, right? So just don't. हम ये कह रहे हैं कि इसको रूढ़िवाद मत बनाओ, dogmatize मत करो, उसको हमारी बाधा का मत बनाओ. आपका अगर मन मानता है ऐसा करना, आप वो करिए, बिल्कुल करिए.
But then we should follow our protocols now.
देखिए फॉलो तो कर सकते थे, पर दुनिया अब इस तरह करवट ले चुकी है जहां पर महिलाएं गेम्स खेल रही है, वर्ल्ड में ओलंपिक्स पे जा रही है, दुनिया में काम कर रही है, मैं इंटरनेशनल ट्रैवल करती हूँ, आप करती हैं, तो ये हमारी पर्सनल चॉइस है.
उसको वीकनेस नहीं बनाना चाहिए ना.
हाँ हाँ, तो ये पर्सन, ये हम इसको नियम बना देंगे तो नहीं चलेगा. ये हमारी संस्कृति का हिस्सा है, हमने सुना, हमें ग्रहण करना है, हम ग्रहण करेंगे, हमें नहीं ग्रहण करना, हम नहीं करेंगे. हम किसी पे कोई चीज थोपेंगे नहीं, हम बताएंगे ये अच्छा होता है, ये करना, इसके ये फायदे होते हैं, ये करेंगे तो महिलाओं को लिए आगे तक अच्छा रहेगा. सो दीज आर पर्सनल चॉइसेस यू हैव टू मेक. सो कहने का मतलब आज जो महिला काम नहीं कर रही है, इसका मतलब ये थोड़ी है कि वो कोई इंसान वो वैल्यू क्रिएट नहीं कर रही है. सो वैल्यू आपकी और मेरी नजर में हो सकता है मटेरियल कल्चर के नाम से नहीं कर रही होगी, बट शी इज क्रिएटिंग मोर वैल्यू इन द फैमिली, स्टेइंग एट होम, नर्चरिंग द किड, गिविंग हर मोर टाइम. बट इज शी एजुकेटिंग herself alongside? You know, that's the job that human beings are meant to. You're constantly meant to evolve. Is she evolving? That's important. अगर वो घर बैठ के चुप रह के साइलेंस में रह करके इवॉल्व हो रही है तो बहुत बढ़िया, क्या जरूरत है प्लेन चढ़ने की, भागने की, इधर से उधर जाने की. सो इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ पर्सनल चॉइस. अपनी बुद्धिमत्ता की बात है ये.
Yeah, we are. Some people are conservative. Some people are from conservative family. But my issue is that women enter in the temple when they are on periods. So they should not.
इसके बारे में एक सेपरेटली बात.
मैं सिर्फ एक साइंटिफिक इसमें देना चाहूंगी,
She wants to give a scientific.
एक साइंटिफिक एनेक्डोट इसमें देना चाहूंगी. एक्चुअली किसी भी चीज को करने से अगर हम उसका साइंटिफिक रीजन पीछे समझ जाएं तो उसको फॉलो करना है ना करना है पर्सनल चॉइस है. आप टेम्पल्स में जब जाते हैं तो वहां का जो प्राणिक फ्लो होता है वो ऊपर की तरफ होता है, और पीरियड्स के टाइम पे आपकी बॉडी का प्राणिक फ्लो नीचे की तरफ होता है. तो जब आप एंटर करेंगे किसी ऐसी हाई वैल्यू जगह पे जहां पे वाइब्स बहुत अच्छी हो और वहां पे प्राणिक फ्लो ऊपर होगा, तो आपकी जो बॉडी है प्राणिक फ्लो डाउन एंड अप वो क्लैश करेंगी, विच विल कॉज डिस्कम्फर्ट टू यू. तो ये सोच करके कहा गया कि आप ऐसी जगहों पर मत जाओ. ठीक है, अब इसको आप ये बोल रहे कि नहीं ये पाप है, ये है, ये वो है, वो गलत है. पर आपके डिस्कम्फर्ट के लिए आप सोच रहे हो कि हाँ ये मेरे लिए अच्छा है, मुझे नहीं जाना चाहिए, ये अच्छी बात है. तो जो आपने रिचुअल और स्पिरिचुअल की बात की, मैं एक ही बात समझती हूँ, रिचुअल के साथ अगर आप स्पिरिट जोड़ देते हैं, साइंस जोड़ देते हैं, दिमाग, रीजनिंग, लॉजिक जोड़ देते हैं, तो वो स्पिरिचुअल हो जाता है. तो spirit with ritual is spiritual.
Wow. Two fantastic takeaways: history and spiritual.
Spiritual.
Very nice.
Ritual and spiritual.
Very nice. Quick questions? Jaya?
Yeah. Any questions?
My question is for Yashika. First of all, you're a very powerful orator. You really make me feel deeply.
Thank you.
Think deeply. So, can you let me know of some sources where I can learn about crypto and metaverse, and then later on maybe create a career out of it, and then help society out of it?
That's lovely. I'm so glad that you were able to ask this question with this conversation.
Yeah.
May I know something about you? आप क्या करते हैं?
Yeah. So I'm working as a pre-sales consultant in a IT. We provide marketing IT automation solution for telecom and banking domain.
Okay, तो आपका background commerce में रहा है, marketing में रहा है?
No, so I had done BSc and then I'm also pursuing MBA currently.
MBA currently, great. तो इसमें काफी सारे ऑप्शंस होते हैं. जैसे अगर आपको कोडिंग में इंटरेस्ट है तो आप ब्लॉकचेन की तरफ जा सकते हैं. अगर आप खुद एक क्रिएटर हैं जिसके पास कुछ चीजें हैं, या आप कुछ ब्रांड्स के साथ काम कर रहे हैं जहां पर आप उनको NFT की फायदे उनको बता सकते हैं कि कैसे NFT जान करके वो आगे बढ़ सकते हैं, तो दैट इज वन लाइन ऑफ इट. मेटावर्स इज फॉर पीपल हु आर ट्राइंग टू बिल्ड समथिंग विच इज वेरी फ्यूचरिस्टिक, और वो आगे जा करके उनको काम आए. अब इसमें आप कहां पर अपना ढूंढ सकते हैं? द फर्स्ट स्टेप टू स्टार्ट वुड बी YouTube, free resource. Go there, understand more and more about crypto, metaverse, NFTs. आप मेरी वीडियोस भी देख सकते हैं. I'm also a crypto educator on YouTube. And I also take live streams. तो इनमें we keep telling people and we keep bringing out from them कि वो क्या चाहते हैं और कैसे इस टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज करके वो कर सकते हैं. This is one way of doing it. उसके बाद there comes courses. कोर्सेज जैसे कि आर्च कॉलेज, अर्चना जी, आर्च कॉलेज जो अपना ट्राई कर रहा है एक वर्चुअल एसेट का कोर्स बनाने का ट्राई कर रहे हैं, तो यहाँ पर मैं NFTs के बारे में आप और भी लिख पाएंगे कि कैसे आप NFT को पूरा प्लान कर सकते हैं और उसको लॉन्च कर सकते हैं, एवरीथिंग फ्रॉम बिल्डिंग इट टू लॉन्चिंग इट एंड टू मेकिंग इट सक्सेसफुल। तो ये सारे एवेन्यूज हैं, यूट्यूब एंड गूगल बेस्ट, आप वहां पर जाकर के पढ़ें, बहुत सारे फ्री रिसोर्सेज हैं, स्पेसिफिक हैं, अगर मैं आपको ऐसे बोलूंगी तो आप भूल जाएंगे, इट वुड बी बेटर आप मुझसे बाद में कनेक्ट करें, आई वुड सेंड दीज कोर्सेज टू
So
यू।
what she's saying is digital asset design and development. We're going to start a 3-month course. It's going to be online.
Okay.
Right? So you can learn a lot of that, how you will be able to create your, content that you'll be able to monetize, right? In the through crypto in the Metaverse. So
Okay,
that's the kind of course we are going to be starting from mid-November onwards.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are a lot of opportunities, and because it's an open source today, there's so much of content that's available. So go ahead and just get yourself immersed into it, learn, and you get people like us to question and talk. I think that's a great way to start, yeah. Because it's not that something is in. सब लोग इसलिए मत घुस जाना किसी चीज में कि भैया ये नया है, ये अच्छा है, इसमें पैसा होगा।
Right.
कुछ नहीं है, फेलियर्स, चैलेंजेस, एक्सपीरियंसेस, सरप्राइजेस हर जगह रखे पड़े हैं, ठीक है? सो जस्ट डोंट गेट ऑन टू द बैंड वैगन, फील लाइफ, यू रियली फील इंस्पायर्ड, यू फील रियली कनेक्टेड टू इट, इफ इट्स देयर इज अ कॉलिंग फॉर इट, try and understand the DC again, come connect with the deeper first,
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe after this conversation, I can have the details of the course and how can I stay connected.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Any other questions, please? Meeta, anything?
Hi, I have a question here. So, Archna ma'am and all of you talked about mindset. And there was a beautiful thing raised by you, ma'am, that only Women Mentors Forum won't be helping that. I'm sorry, but I contradict with that.
No, she didn't say that.
No, she said in a forum there should be men as well. So, so because I think men are already mentoring traditionally. I believe that men has been, if you go to any industry in India also, हर बाप अपने बेटे को help कर रहा है, अपने भाई को कर रहा है. Everywhere they are mentoring each other. They are already following that. Women are not. That's why we need, forums or spaces like these.
I want to say something here, which is that, on the International Women's Day, for example, you have a lot of women's forum, women being present, etc., which is fine because on a given day you're paying tribute. It's also in a sense of recognizing that because of our patriarchal system, women sort of fell off the radar, right? All that I respect greatly, and we ourselves have, in many ways, that are almost unspeakable. We suffer because the reason why I carry a different surname from that of my spouse is so people don't know we are married. Because the moment they know they're married, they'll make equivalences, and those equivalences will always tilt in favor of the man, even if you're better than him in some regards. No one can be the best anyway, right? Sure. They will not. So we do workshops together for the industry, etc. We have different names. At the end of the 3-day workshop, they'll be like, did you realize they were married? Oh, so cool, so nice. And then they feel nice. But I have to hide the fact that, I'm married to somebody because he has the default advantage of getting things. People will just look at a man and say, ye zyada acha hi hoga, more reliable. We have suffered. I have not talked about it. And I know that by sitting at home and raising my child, which was my choice because I didn't want to leave her in the hands of maids, etc., I lost a few years, but materially speaking, and I had to work extra hard to do whatever, But I do know that I totally agree with Archana, when you say you are your own competition, you set the bar. And if you're extremely finicky about what you do and you keep criticizing yourself, you're self-critical, you'll go out there and you will be endearing to people because they'll say, she thinks she's not doing so well, but she's actually doing well. And then you create a space around you for negotiation where people are not afraid to talk to you. They'll be like, I want to help you. I want your help, but I also want to be with you in this, okay? So what I'm trying to say is that it's very important. I don't believe in feminism in the way that it came out. Let me tell you that. I'm counterintuitive about it in the sense that I feel that men need to be with us to see how we're struggling, and right? And after what is that, that movement where men were called out? Me Too. So many men have suffered because unnecessarily they were targeted. Should we do that? My spouse, who's also at IITB, he set up cameras because we worked there till late night, and he didn't want some girl who he has been very strict with come out at night and say, oh, she comes out running out of the room, and suddenly it looks like he's done something. So he set up cameras. Men work under difficult circumstances too, but I think that men and women need to be together for men to listen to our problems and we to listen to their problems. And I do not believe that women forum with only women will be so productive or optimal, because we are listening to our own problems. तो हमें पता ही है अभी आगे क्या करना है वो देखना चाहिए ना.
Exactly.
है ना. And I remember recently I watched some interview and the Prime Minister, this person asked the Prime Minister, sir, आप जो कमाते हो, आप मम्मी को कुछ देते हो? अरे उल्टा मम्मी देती है. मैं जाती हूँ, मम्मी अभी भी वो 100 रुपए हाथ पे उठा देते हैं. You know, that is that tacit power that women hold over men. And we don't want to abuse that because they recognize it.
True,
They
very.
do recognize it. And how can we actually use it to the best purposes? I'm not in favor of women, just talking to women, you know.
Yeah.
Because the structures out there are patriarchal. हम बीच में आपस में बोलते रहेंगे, वो patriarchy तो वहाँ पे घूम रहे, सब कुछ कर रहे. What is the point? They are not going to.
Isn't it another way if women will support another women, and if it will just emerge as empowering women, nothing to do with patriarchy, nothing to do with men.
Fantastic.
So
There will be a time when they will automatically have to accept now they are equally empowered and they don't.
But
need that
practically speaking, that's not how it is. No, patriarchy is very strong. No.
You know why she's trying to put this forward? Because here it's not about men that we do. Most of the forums where you have women, they have issue with things that are going around men or not to be in that space. When we talk about mentoring, it's very organic. It's a beautiful relationship that two women who develop within themselves, right? So I was mentored by Geraldine LeBon, who's a media icon in the United States, right? I was struggling in my business at that point of time. She came into my life, right? 5 days I spent time with her, and she is on the boards, and she's the lady. She was partners with Oprah Winfrey, and heading the Oxygen Media. So I mean, with her kind of experience, it was a whole experience of having a mentor who's so evolved. She giving me those insights. She don't give you a rasta. She can't give me answers, but she gives me those. That space of inquiry, those insights.
at interpersonal level.
Yeah. So this is what we do at the Women Mentors Forum.
Agree with you. Yeah.
So,
developing ourselves personally,
so we do a mentor-mentee.
with or against men.
No.
But that will somehow evolve the society.
Yeah, yeah. So I think even women groups need to identify that what is their core purpose. एक photograph करा लेते हैं. Yeah, groups need to identify what are the core issues, rather than, or what is the essence of why they're getting together. Yeah. I think that's very key, yeah. So with this note, I think we can, Hanji. हाँ बताएं मैम.
आप सबकी बात बहुत सही है, बहुत अच्छी भी है, और जो हम लोग सुन रहे हैं ना, क्योंकि मोस्टली वुमेन ही बैठे हैं, तो हम लोगों को अच्छी भी लग रही है.
पुरुष भी बहुत है.
पुरुष भी है काफी.
नहीं है.
पीछे देखो मुड़ गए.
मैम मैंने देखा, इसके पहले वाले सेशन में भी देखा, मैं क्रिटिसाइज नहीं कर रही हूँ, है ना. मैं आपके सामने बस एक चैलेंज रख रही हूँ, क्योंकि आप एक स्कूल चला रही हैं, एक कोर्स. तो क्या हम किसी ऐसे कोर्स के बारे में बात नहीं कर सकते जहाँ हम ये जितनी बातें कर रहे हैं, जिन फोरम्स की, जिन भी परेशानियों की बात कर रहे हैं, वो तब तक मेन स्ट्रीम नहीं होंगी जब तक काउंटर पार्ट्स इसको समझेगा नहीं, सुनेगा नहीं. तो क्यों हम उस चैलेंज की तरह लेके, या कोई ऐसा तरीका, मुझे नहीं मालूम क्या हो सकता है, बट नहीं ले सकते कि जहाँ पे वो लोग भी इस चीज़ को सुने, समझे, और फिर हम साथ रहने की बात करते हैं, मेन स्ट्रीम की बात करें. क्योंकि अभी भी अगर ये हमारे बीच में ही है, ये मेंटरशिप हमारे बीच में है, तो ये स्टीरियोटाइप्ड ही है.
नहीं, यही तो डिजिटाइजेशन आया है. इट इज नॉट कन्फाइंड टू दिस प्लेस ओनली.
मैम दिस शुड नॉट बी, बट प्रेजेंटली जब हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं, आपसे प्रश्न कर रही हैं वो महिलाएं हैं, हम जो बातें कर रहे हैं वो महिलाएं हैं, हम जो सुन रहे हैं वो भी अधिकांश महिलाएं हैं. तो जब तक वो नहीं जाएगी दूसरी जगह पे, तब तक मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो उतनी इंपॉर्टेंस ले पाएगी जितनी हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
तो विमेन्स लीडरशिप इन द डिजिटल वर्ल्ड की बात ही यही है कि जो डिजिटल वर्ल्ड है ना, उसने क्या करा है, डिसेंट्रलाइज कर दिया है सबको। अब वो जो पावर हाउसेज है ना, वो अब सब डिसेंट्रलाइज हो जाएंगे। तो अगर मेन का भी जो पावर हाउस है वो भी हो जाएगा, विमेन का भी अगर कुछ था तो वो भी। तो अगर हम डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म को हम यूज कर सकें टू स्प्रेड द वॉइस, राइट, हमारी जो वॉइस है वो उस माध्यम से बाहर जा सकती है, उससे हम बहुत लोगों को पॉजिटिवली इम्पैक्ट कर सकते हैं। इसीलिए जरूरत है कि महिलाएं अपनी इमेज, विमेन मेंटर्स फोरम फेसबुक पे भी है, इंस्टाग्राम पे भी है, लेकिन बात विमेन मेंटर्स फोरम की नहीं है यहाँ पर। बात यह है कि हम में से एक एक जना क्या कर रहा है, हमें वो देखने की जरूरत है। हम दूसरों को क्या कहेंगे वो जिंदगी नहीं है कि तुम्हें और हमें क्या करना चाहिए। आप मुझे नहीं कह सकते कि मुझे क्या करना। मैं ये कहती हूँ आप इस दिशा में, क्योंकि ये आपकी सोच की उपज है, आप इस दिशा में क्या करना चाहोगे। ऐसे अगर हम में से एक एक जना अपनी सोच के ऊपर में विकसित करेगा तभी दुनिया में बदलाव आएगा, ना कि हम सोचें कि हम एक कोर्स बना दें उससे दुनिया में परिवर्तन आएगा। क्योंकि रोल मॉडल्स जो होते हैं ना, उससे बड़ा कोई मॉडलिंग नहीं है।
I would like to add upon this, ma'am.
हाँ।
Yeah, this is very true. Since women should take their own stand. हम क्या करते हैं, हम मेंस के पीछे भागते हैं कि they would be taking a stand, which is actually wrong. Take your own stand. Be like you are the independent girl. We are the
आप इनकी भाषा
woman.
देखो ना, ये हमारी मेंटी है, हैं? भाषा देखो आप इनकी, और ये हमारी मेंटी है। ये दोनों मेंटीज है। इसका सोशल मीडिया का अपना बिजनेस है, इनका अपना ज्वेलरी का बिजनेस है। तो ये मेरी मेंटी रही है और ये इनकी मेंटी रही हैं। तो मतलब मैं अपना एक बड़ा बिजनेस चलाती हूँ, इनका अपना बड़ा है। तो ये यंगस्टर्स है जो नए नए अभी बिजनेस में आए हैं, अपने इनके अपने चैलेंजेस है बहुत सारे, है ना। तो मेरा ये मानना है कि सशक्त करने के लिए पहले शेयरिंग बहुत जरूरी है। कनेक्ट करें, शेयर करें, फिर एक दूसरे को इंस्पायर करें, छोटे छोटे कदम।
मैं आपको अपना बैकग्राउंड बता दूं।
हाँ जी मैम।
आई एम डॉक्टरेट ऑन जेंडर स्टडीज।
हाँ जी।
सेकेंडरी आई एम वर्किंग फॉर सीएम सर्विस डिलीवरी सेल हेयर। तो व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से हियर कि जो कुछ भी आप बात कर रहे हैं उसके लिए वो जो प्लेटफॉर्म वाला वर्ड है, जो डिजिटलाइजेशन की अपन बात कर रहे हैं, क्या वो हमारी बातचीत में कहीं आ रहा है, क्या वो कहीं वहाँ जा रहा है जिन सब लोगों के लिए। तो सिर्फ उस प्रश्न को मैंने आप लोगों के सामने रखा।
मैम वापस एक बार रिफ्रेज करें आप कि क्या कह रहे थे आप, कि जो हम बात कर रहे हैं
उसके अंदर जैसे हमने कहा वुमेन का क्या डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म पे क्या भी सीन है या क्या भी रोल है, हम लोगों ने इस बारे में बहुत सारी बात की। फिर आपने कहा कि ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म से, जैसे आपने कहा वुमेन फोरम इंस्टा पे है, फेसबुक पे है, तो दिस इज़ व्हाट लाइक माय गेन इज़ हियर कि ऐसा कोई एक फोरम है जो जहाँ पे इस तरह की बात होती है। हम उसको स्टडी कर सकते हैं कि उनके फॉलोअर्स कौन हैं, एक रिसर्च का टॉपिक हो गया। जो मैं चाह रही हूँ कि ऐसा ना हो कि ये सारी बातें केवल औरतों के, महिलाओं के बीच में रहे, क्या पुरुषों के पास भी जा रही हैं। जब हम मेन स्ट्रीम होने की बात कर रहे हैं, स्टीरियोटाइपिंग तोड़ने की बात कर रहे हैं, तो दोनों के बारे में समझना जरूरी है। तो सिर्फ ये जानने के लिए मैंने आपसे ये प्रश्न
बहुत
किया।
अच्छी बात मैम, थैंक यू सो मच। आपने अपना वो भी दिया हमें इंट्रोडक्शन।
It was a great pleasure to listen to you all, your wise words. Inspired so many of young women's leaders who are here. We thank you all. We, on the behalf of IT Communication, to present token of gratitude, I would please call upon Ms. Manish Lamba, Joint Director of Department IT and Communication, to all panelists.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and your valuable knowledge shared with us.
I